So I'm Cynthia. I'm the host of the reality series CPS the Horror Stories. Not a social worker, not an attorney, just a mom who has experience with CPS. My kids were kidnapped and I did get them back. So now I do this. And Jessica, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Jessica. I live in Hemet, and I currently have 2 CPS cases open.
You're in California? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, is that where you're at?
I'm in Riverside.
Oh, okay. Wow, we're not far.
We could do lunch.
Yeah, we could do that massage.
Yes, let's do that.
I am a massage therapist. I've been doing it right out of high school, 13 years. Although, due to the COVID issue, work's been kind of slow.
Do
Yes.
you know I do hair?
I can tell you do hair
I do.
by your unique hair.
Thank you.
I love your hair, by the way.
Thank you.
I
like
love
hair.
that color. I wanted to do that. I used to have red tips,
I see
so
that.
I like to play around with my hair a little bit too, but right now it's kind of faded.
Yeah. Okay, so first CPS question. Did you have CPS in your life as a child?
No.
No, okay. So tell me, when did they get involved in your life as an adult?
So this was around sometime last year. I believe July 11th is when I had a custody battle with my ex-mother-in-law, and I was moving out of her house at the time. I had found a place. I was living there for about a month or two, but she showed up one day we were co-parenting, and she would have my daughter every weekend and we would trade off. But one day she showed up and she served me some papers. And to my surprise, like, I'm thinking everything's going well. We're co-parenting. We've had issues in the past, but it's nothing I didn't think we haven't gotten past, or, like, I'm not gonna hold a grudge. But so she served me papers, and they were to try and gain custody of my daughter. Now, I lived at her house for 5 years, and my daughter's always lived there too.
Did she have any kind of custody of her?
Never, no. And I always lived in the home with her, like, the whole time. Like, that's been my daughter's home the entire time. But I lived there. I helped pay rent and uphold the house and whatnot. But when her son and I kind of separated, well, things got really bad, and I moved away, and I was kind of struggling at the time, and I wanted to move with my closest family. I wanted to be near family to get help with my kid and be able to work and all that, because my ex-mother-in-law was, I could always count on her to help with my kid while I'm working. We would help each other.
Did he have any custody?
He doesn't. No.
Did he live there when you were there?
Yeah, we all lived together, and one day there was an issue, and he got a little violent with his mom, and the cops were called. I was out at work, but he had to do some jail time, and then he got ordered to do rehab, because he did have a problem using, and I did at one point as well. And
what did you guys use, if you don't mind?
Heroin and meth. Earlier, I mentioned I used to work 3 jobs. I'm not saying that this is an excuse for using drugs, because it's not. I don't advocate for anybody to have a reason to use. But my explanation is I kind of just use it as a tool to like be able to sleep or stay up later, and that was not a good idea. But I seeked help to my mother-in-law, who I was close to at the time. I told her, you know, I'm using for this reason and I want to stop because it's starting to cause major problems, and I need help. So I had no idea that was going to be my biggest mistake, because she turned around and called CPS. Now, that was the first time, and I had already started to get clean. So by the time CPS came around, I tested for them immediately, and they were out of my life. I didn't have an issue with them. But then when I moved out of her house, and I stayed in Hemet, which is where we all lived, but I moved to a different house, and she thought I was gonna move to San Francisco, which is where I had family, and she was afraid. She's really close to my daughter, and she was afraid that I was gonna like take my daughter away and not she wasn't gonna be able to see her. And for me, no matter what, like it doesn't matter what my relationship with a person is, because like if they're involved with my child, that's a completely different relationship. Like my relationship with my mother-in-law has nothing to do with my child's relationship with my
Agreed.
mother-in-law. So, you know, I would never keep her from her. What's that?
How old is your daughter?
She's 6. You know, she just turned 6 in July. Um, so
Sorry, you were saying that you don't. Your relationship with your
yeah. So like, you know, I'm just, I would never, like, I never thought I'd have to be involved in like court hearings, or I never thought there'd be a reason that we could never talk things out as a family or as adults, you know, co-parenting, whatever the case. But to my surprise, you know, she really just, it turned into a big mess, and she just didn't want her son around. She didn't want me around. And I mean, at one point I was paying for everything. I was working a lot and I wasn't around a lot, but you know, I worked to pay bills. So
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 31.
And
Gonna
her
be,
her son
oh,
was
sorry. I was just gonna say I'm gonna be 32 this month, actually, in a couple days. No, on the 20th.
her son was on drugs though, too.
Yeah, he was, and he was working, but he wasn't helping. He wasn't helping as much.
Did she
Like,
know that though?
yes, she did. We both kind of had issues with him. We actually, I mean, we were both, it seemed like we were the only ones kind of upholding the house. So that's where the problem started. There was a lot of arguments, but there was a lot of just like everyone pointing at each other, like complaining about everything. It was just a stressful mess. And it got unmanageable, you know. We weren't happy as a family anymore. There was problems, and so anyways, what ended up happening was there was a domestic dispute. The cops got called. I was at work, but he got taken away. He went to jail. He went to a rehab. He got better. He went to meetings. He's been clean over a year. I got clean too, but what happened was his mom, you know, she took me to court to try to get custody of our daughter, and she accused me of a lot of things, which really there was only one thing she was correct about, and that's that I had used drugs, which I admitted to both her and CPS. I'm an honest person, and I feel like right now, I feel like it sucks to be honest, because I've I don't know. I've been honest with a lot of people, and I feel like I'm being punished for it, even though, you know, I've sought help. I've done my time. Dad's done his time. We've disproved a lot of stuff, a lot of the allegations, you know. I've never ever once used in front of my daughter, or even, you know, I would never do that in front of her or around her. And I got help immediately as soon as it really started to just dismantle everything around me. Like, it, I knew I needed help. I got help. I was honest with everybody, and uh, things just got worse and worse after doing everything to, like, just fix all the problems around me. After trying to get better, it seemed like that's when everything got more intense and worse. And I feel like because I had this fault, they were using any excuse to just keep my child away from me, even though I had done everything that they asked at the time. Um, so they've come around twice. The first time was when I was moving out, and I first told my mother-in-law, like, I have a problem, I need help, I can't handle this lifestyle anymore. And that's when she called CPS or whatever. But I got clean and they went away. And then after we did the custody battle and I won, and I proved that, you know, I was clean and that I had been, you know, contributing to the house. Like, I did have a job, I did pay bills, I have been a part of my child's life, and, you know, I'm a responsible, rational person that's capable, and I'm honest, and you know, this is what I got. You know, this is all of my proof. The judge awarded me custody and denied her, and I started co-parenting with her again. And then a month later, I get a knock, and it's CPS again, accusing me of all the same things that I got accused for by my mother-in-law when we went to court for the custody battle. So after that happened, they, you know, they asked me to do the parenting classes, to get mentally evaluated, to do domestic violence, and to do random drug tests, which I did. And I went to visits, and I did the parenting classes, and I did a lot of it online because things kept overlapping. It seemed like they were having me do too much at once. And slowly I kind of started, my life just kind of started changing. I wasn't able to work out of town. I wasn't able to um, do a lot of the things that I normally do. And it just slowly started turning into, I have to quit everything I'm used to doing and rearrange everything according to this case and this whole department of people. And it's it's been it's just been the worst experience of my life. Like, I've never been so scared, and I've never felt like I don't have rights, or I can't trust anybody. You know, this whole experience has made me feel as if I can't talk to anybody about anything. Now, when I found your show, I was really relieved, and I was also really shocked because there's a lot of other situations that are way worse than mine. So I'm grateful that, you know, my kids don't have any there's no abuse physically with them. My child's perfectly healthy and happy, both my children. Oh yeah, that brings me to my second case. So after a few months of doing all of these classes and visits, and I had to kind of downgrade my job and stop working for the chiropractors I worked for. And I had to start doing house calls here in town to try to make my own schedule while still keeping up with the classes and the visits and the meetings, just everything I have to do. Um, uh, I met someone else through these meetings, and um, I have a new relationship now. I've been with this person for the last couple years, but or no, the last year. But uh, so we had a kid, and CPS gets called again, and I'm going, okay, well, what is this about now? Like, I know I have a case open, but I'm doing everything in my case, and oh, you went out, you're muted.
Sorry, how old is that child?
He's a month. Yeah. I'm trying to think about everything, and there's just like I don't even know where to start because it's been going on so long that
Yeah.
I'm kind of like weaving in and out of parts, and I'm trying to I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Like, I'm overwhelmed just thinking about it or talking about it, but I'm trying to like make sure that all the timing makes sense, which I'm not sure it does. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but
When
I
did
mean,
he get taken?
what's that?
When did he get taken?
He was born July 24th, and they showed up on the 26th to ask if we had provisions for the baby, and if I'm doing things for my other court case. And I was just like, yeah, I'm doing things for my other court case, and you know, yeah, I have provisions for this baby. Like, I have everything I need, and I'm doing my other case plan. And she asked if I would test, and I said yeah. And then I told her, I'm pretty sure that the hospital has another test on file because they're recommending I do breastfeeding, and that wouldn't be recommended unless I was dirty. So, I've been clean a long time, actually. Like, I have plenty of tests I can send you or show you, like,
Right.
it's been a long time. So I did the test, the mouth swab test for her, and it came up negative. But she said that the lines were very faint. So then I showed her, yeah, but see right here, it says even if this line is lighter than the first line, as long as there's two that you can see, that's a negative. And
Right.
she was like, I'm going to mark it inconclusive, and I'm going to ask you to go and do a urine test. And I'm like, well, okay, but just because I've been discharged doesn't mean like I can leave here or should leave here. My child hasn't been discharged yet, and they're recommending me to do to be here to feed him every 2.5 hours. At the time, my baby was actually born 3 weeks early, and they said that he was at risk for jaundice, so they wanted to do like a light treatment or something like that. So I okayed it, and I stayed there. I was discharged, but my child was not. So I was there after I was discharged. I was there for the day after, like a couple days later, to feed him. And I also kept kind of asking, like, how long is this going to take? When am I going to be able to bring him home? Like, is everything okay? And they're like, we're just going to run some tests and everything's going to be fine. And yeah, you guys will get to leave soon. And like, they kind of just kept telling me that over and over. And they kept and my boyfriend was there with me as well. And when the CPS lady came in, she didn't come in saying, you know, I'm so and so from CPS. They said they were from the county of Riverside, and then they said that they were in the kids department. Now, being at the hospital, we had already met so many different nurses and people that are part of the hospital. Like there was like a photo lady, there was like 3 different nurses, there was a pediatrician, and then there was another doctor. Um, I think it was like my original doctor that was just kind of there that had talked to me a little bit. But yeah, we had talked to so many people in the hospital. We were kind of like blindsided by this lady coming in and talking to us. Like, we just started talking to her like normal until she started asking such personal questions. And then she asked me to test for her. Then I kind of started putting it together like, oh, it's a CPS lady, of course. So I'm going to have to do whatever. She's going to ask me, you know, if I have everything I need and do the test. So yeah, I did all that. But my boyfriend, he hasn't never had a case, and he's never been convicted of anything. And you know, he's got
did she have any paperwork or a warrant or anything?
no, nothing at the time. And I kind of, since I'm already in an open case, I kind of was just like, I don't have anything to hide, you know, or so I felt like I didn't have anything to hide. So it wasn't until I started looking up attorneys and talking to more people and realizing like I really need some help because they're kind of giving me the runaround. They're telling me to do like conflicting things that overlap, and it's like a setup for failure. And if ever I give them, like, there was maybe out of like the 90 tests that I've done, there's been like 3 of them that were positive. And there was one point where I got sick and I was using medication, and I had told them like, oh, well, I'm on medication. Could this
What
could this be?
medication?
It was a cough syrup that could have, and I talked to a nurse about it after I tested positive, and then I went to do a urine test to disprove that one. So, but it seems like every time I did the urine test, they would do something like, oh, we didn't get enough pee, or like, oh, it came up diluted. Like, they do that one. They tell me that a lot, and I'm always like, well, I mean, I do drink a lot of tea and water, but I mean, I eat food, and there's, you know, there's someone watching me do this. You guys do know that, right? Like, I'm not
Diluted?
Yeah, they told me that it came up diluted like 2 times. And I was like, the time before that, you told me that I didn't give enough urine, and I know that I filled the thing to the top. So, like, I just keep, you know, like, they're just, I'm trying to be as cooperative as possible because I feel like if I'm not, it's going to go worse for me. And I need to do this. I need to beat this at all odds. Like, I I just get the feeling like they're just trying to wear me out or tire me out or get me to like give up and stop. But I'm like trying to keep up with all of this, and it has changed my life dramatically. I don't work nearly as much as I used to. I went from I waited so long to get on the Section 8 housing. Waited years to do that, and I finally got a vouchers, and they required me to move to a different city, which is what I wanted to do anyways. But I wasn't able to use it. I wasn't able to like move out and have my own place because my case was in Hemet. So that's another problem that I feel like I had to deal with was um, I had to stay in Hemet, and I was working considerably less, having to do all the classes and stuff and the testing. So I downgraded to I'm renting a room now. But it's like, you know, they do this thing where they try to they're like, oh well, are you gonna get a bigger place? Are you how long have you been renting here? And I'm like, yeah, you know, I had planned on getting a bigger place, but right now I'm not working as much because I'm trying to free up my time to do all these classes that I'm required to do. And I don't feel the need to move out until I have my child back in my custody. Like, that's just how it's going to be more reasonable for me to do, to move and get a bigger place. You know, like, they don't care that they make it so difficult for you to live and take care of yourself.
Right.
And you give up so much to jump through these hoops that after a while feel like you're not getting anywhere. It's like, you wanted me to do parenting classes and I tried to go, but I kept getting rescheduled and pushed back, and then this COVID thing happens. So I go online and I'm like, okay, well, I got to do these classes. I need to get them done. And I want the next time I go to court for all this to be addressed. You know, I'm getting this done. I'm doing my classes. I'm doing my visits. I'm testing clean. Like, I'm doing all these things you guys want me to do. I've been doing all these things that you want me to do for a long time now, while still trying to like take care of myself and remain responsible as best as possible. But you know, now having a second child and this whole thing is starting all over again, it doesn't make sense to me how they can advocate for that, they want to protect these children and help them. And you know, this lady comes in and, you know, she accuses me of like having concerns and I might not be able to take care of this child. And I'm like, well, you're here asking me to test for you. I've done that. That came up negative, but you want to push it a little bit further and have me do this test again so that I'm like not here with my child. Like, I don't get it. You guys are telling me to go and do this over here because I need to be a better parent, but like, you're taking me away from physically actually being a parent. And then all the while, like, my boyfriend's going the other way. He's like, I don't have to talk to you, and I don't mean any disrespect, but I just don't feel comfortable answering any of your questions. So please don't ask me any questions. I'm not going to answer them. And she just kept kind of like pushing him and saying, you know, like, oh, have you been convicted of any drug charges, or do you have it, like, just kind of fishing around for information, even though he clearly set boundaries with her and she's just kind of ignoring them. And so, you know, and the hardest part about all this also is, like, for my daughter, since she's a little bit older, she, every time I'm at these visits, she's like, why can't I come home with you? Why aren't you picking me up from school? Like, don't you miss me? Don't you love me anymore? And it breaks my heart because I have been there. I've been there for her since she was born. This is the first time that I have not been with my kid. And now I have a new kid that needs me. And I'm doing everything that these people are asking me, and I'm not getting anywhere. And it's been so long now, and I just, I don't know what to do. So,
My daughter was 6 when she was taken too.
and I feel like that's a really tough age for them to be taken away, because they're still so small, but they're still like, you know, they're able to talk and form their own opinions. And, you know, the department doesn't let you talk to them about the case.
No.
So it's like everything that your child's going to want to know from you, you are not even allowed to say.
Yeah.
And when I tried to like ask these people, like, what is the deciding factor of my child being taken away? Because there was never any evidence presented as to why she should have been taken away. It was just, oh, I think she's doing this and this and this. And, you know, you guys just came to my house to check, you know, if I have electricity, water, if I can take care of my kid. And I'm showing all of that I have all of that. But it didn't seem to matter. And, you know, they're just gonna ignore whatever progress I've made. And so after my son got kind of held, because this lady came back after I tested for her and my boyfriend said like, oh, I don't feel comfortable talking to you. She came back a couple days later and she gave us the papers to, oh, well, we're gonna have to meet you guys in court because we just have some concerns. So when we go to court, I'm telling, you know, my boyfriend and his family, like, I've been through all of this before, like, you guys need to get an attorney. So they were looking for an attorney. I started kind of trying to just help and look for an attorney too. So that's when I found Vince Davis, and I called to ask for a consultation, and he kind of talked to me briefly, and
Your attorney?
I kind of I had just talked to him briefly and asked, you know, I'd like to get I don't have an attorney for myself because I can't afford one.
Yeah.
I'm like barely skating by right now, like taking care of myself. I know I can do better if I had some more time, like free time, but having to do all these classes and stuff, like that's my number one priority. So I've downgraded a lot. And they kind of like, they took his rights away too. So he had to end up moving with me. And we were both going to actually be living with his family, which didn't get to happen. But thank God, one of the things Mr. Davis said to me was, are your children both with family members? And I said, yes. Yes, they are. And I've been doing everything asked of me, and there's been no evidence presented. There's just been allegations and it's just kind of like, this is all based off a lot of made up stuff and only one thing that I'm guilty of that I never thought would follow me around this long after doing everything I can to change whatever problems I thought I had. Like, I never thought I'd be punished for it like this or this long. Like, it scares me. There's been times where CPS asked me to sign documents and I sign them and I ask them for copies and they tell me like I can't have a copy. And I'm like, my signature's on this. Like, that doesn't seem legal. Like,
Not.
why wouldn't I be able to get a copy? Oh, it's an official document. I'm like, so?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Like, I should be able to have that. It's got my signature on it. Like, and I've already signed this and she's got it in her hand now. So I feel like it's like, do you not want to, you don't want me to have evidence of something? Like, I didn't say that to her, but I'm thinking that in my head. Like why the heck doesn't she want me to have a copy of this? And then, so I'm probably, I've always kept all of my copies of my my tests.
Do you not have a court-appointed attorney?
No, I don't. I was trying to get one for my boyfriend, and so I found Mr. Davis, and he recommended someone for him. So he is now working with. Oh, you have a big Hero 6 tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Sorry, easily distracted. That's awesome though. Another I think that's another what's it called? That's another profession of mine that I think you would have liked. I also do tattoos.
Yes.
So,
do you still
yeah. So, yeah. But well, I don't have much time for it anymore, but I draw a lot every day. I draw.
Cool.
And
We'll talk,
I
'cause I think
and I
help you out in some ways. But so no court-appointed attorney.
no, right now I just have a public defender, and I mean, I've tried to keep in contact with my public defender, but when they're a public defender, you don't get a hold of them very often. It's mostly like right before the court date, and all I've done
That's
is
the same thing though as a court-appointed attorney, or no?
wait, I'm sorry, what?
Is that the same thing as a court-appointed attorney, or no?
I don't think so. I know with an attorney that you hire yourself, CPS isn't allowed to do certain things, and with a public defender, they can still get like really personal. I think that's like the difference.
Let me look.
That's just my opinion though. I'm not
Yeah.
100% sure. I just I just can't get over how like they seem to think that they're doing
Yeah, I think they are the same thing.
kids. Yeah, they are the same thing.
I think so.
Okay. So yeah, I have a public defender, and my boyfriend for our son's case, he has one of Mr. Davis's practitioners, the attorneys under him that
Oh,
work for his firm. So we were able to get one of them to work with us, and kind of just told them, you know, more for like his side, you know, he's a new parent. He's never been accused of anything or convicted of anything. I think there was one thing, but it's a misdemeanor, so it was just, you know, he's never been really in any serious trouble or anything, you know. So I was kind of like, what? I get it, like I kind of have a case open right now, but like, why is he having his parental rights terminated when all he's done is his Miranda rights supposedly to not speak to anybody? You know, like that's his amended right. And they wrote on the report when we went to our first hearing for our second case, for my second case with my son, they said that he was uncooperative, so that was the deciding factor for terminating his parental rights. And I'm thinking like, but like, it's his right to like keep quiet, you know. Anything that you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. So it's like, isn't that his right to not have to talk to these people, especially if they don't have the case open yet? So I'm going like, how is it that you were able to use that as a, okay, that's the reason why you can't be a parent anymore? We think we think you're gonna neglect this baby because you're neglecting to take our services, which I don't know why you would ever need before for any reason. It's like, no one can teach you how to love your kid. You're gonna be the only one who can do that naturally.
so
And they like take that away from you. It's nuts.
Has the baby been taken?
The baby was only taken one time, and it was like, he was taken out of the hospital, and he was detained at one of the CPS offices here in Hemet for, I'm told, 5 to 8 hours. And I was also told that he was only fed once. And when my boyfriend's parents got the baby, they said that he looked really pale, and they were like really worried. And you know, they were, you know, I think
Do you breastfeed?
I had up until recently. They told me that the lady that decided to serve us the papers, which she's no longer our caseworker, because if you've ever been in a CPS case, you get appointed like 50 of them every
Yep.
week.
Yep.
I don't get that, because that's what makes this whole thing conflicting, I think, in the first place, is that there's so many people involved in this and not everybody's on the same page. And I have 2 cases open, so it gets incredibly overwhelming. Like,
I'm
I
sure.
never had depression before. I never had anxiety before. I never had trust issues before. Like, I have all these kind of like problems now. I'm always like, deep down, I'm always like kind of nervous. And
Yeah.
I just feel like my life's been like turned upside down. I don't do anything but live for this case.
Right.
And it's like, you know, like, it's causing a lot of damage to my family. I just, like, my kid is my world. Like, I need to be with them. They need me.
Yeah, they
And
do.
I just don't understand how these people can, like, you know, it makes me wonder, like, have you had your kid taken away? Like, why can't you sympathize with me? Why
No,
can't
they
you
don't.
understand that, like, I'm doing everything in my power to get you to return my kids? And
Most of them don't even have kids.
it's just a, you know, it's like an endless charade of, you know, it's endless. And it's, after a while, it seems kind of like, am I gonna get anywhere eventually? Because how much longer before, you know, before I can take my kid home, or like, you know, explain to them what's going on? Like, they don't understand. And it gets really, really hard every time there's, you know, I've been asked by one of my caseworkers to walk my child all the way to my mother-in-law's car because she keeps running over to my car. That's hard for me. And the only thing I'm able to tell her is, I can't take you home. I'm working. I'm working so much. And I just can't bring you home right now. But
Where is your daughter?
she lives with my mother-in-law,
Ah,
who took me to court and tried to take her in the first place. And I won custody. But I had a different judge. I had a different judge who saw all of my evidence to disprove all the allegations against me, that I wasn't working, that I didn't have a place to live, that I didn't have a vehicle, that I was neglectful, that I was abusive. Anybody who talks to my child can see that she's happy and she's healthy. And she's hilarious too. She is a really clever, funny kid with excellent manners. And like, you know, it sucks because like I was there from day 1 up until this whole thing happened. And, you know I was working a lot at one point, but I worked really hard to, you know, be there for my kid and give my kid everything she needs and teach her stuff. And I feel like now someone else is kind of like taking advantage of all that and getting like the credit for that. It's like I'm being erased, and I'm scared because there's things that my kid says to me that make me really uncomfortable. She'll come to the visits and she'll say things like, you know, like, why did you never put a seatbelt on me?
oh my God.
And I'm going, what? What did you say? And then I'm looking over at like my supervisor, who's supposed to be watching, you know, my visits, kind of like, do you hear this? Now, she's been working with me for a year now, so she does write down things like that, you know, that I'm concerned with, like, you know, why would she come in saying that? It's so specific, it's so random, and it's untrue. She's so impressionable, like, at that age. I looked at her and I told her, you know, you don't remember me putting a seatbelt on you?
They are
And
very
she's
impressionable.
kind of like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is disgusting. Like, you're being manipulated, clearly. And also a couple months back, when everything first happened with my daughter, I had asked her, you know, did anyone tell you to say anything to any of these strangers or these ladies that you've had to meet or talk to? And she said yes. And you know, I said, what, can you tell me what they asked you to say? And she said no. And she got real quiet and got uncomfortable. And I couldn't help but feel like, you know, she had to have said something to someone, to the point where it feels like that's partially why she might have been taken away from me, which I later read in the report, that it did have something to do with something she said. And I was really, like, angry and shocked. And when I went to my next hearing, I wouldn't stop talking about that and pointing it out and saying, like, this is not true. Like, this needs to be changed in this report. Like, I will not agree to anything until this gets changed. And so they did change
Say it
it.
again. What was said? Say that part again. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It was my daughter had been coached into saying something really specific about my drug use to a CPS worker, and they wrote it in the report. And so when I read it, I was like, this isn't true. This needs to be taken out. Like, this never happened. Like, my daughter's being coached to say something like this has never happened. And I was also kind of like shocked, because, like, my kid's a pretty honest kid, but she's also really, she's still a little kid, so she's kind of impressionable too. It's like it's ever since this case, you know, she gets uncomfortable about answering any of my questions that have to do with you know, mother-in-law. You know, does grandma have you tell things to certain people? And she just kind of her whole demeanor kind of just changes. So I recorded it once, and when I went to one of my court cases, I told my attorney about it, and I said, look, in our last case, you guys had this in the report, you know, saying that she said something, and I told you guys it wasn't true. I wanted it changed. But when I went to my next visit, you know, I asked her about it. We talked about it again, and I recorded it. And they said, because you were at your visits, you can't use that in the courtroom. It's not allowed. So I was like, then how am I supposed to disprove all of this?
Right.
Like, what can I do to, like, make all of this stop? Like, I'm not doing anything I'm not supposed to be doing. I do everything that's asked of me, and I'm getting nowhere. I'm getting freaked out, like I'm being ignored, or, you know, they're running me into a wall. Like, I'm just getting nowhere. And I feel like they're kind of just violating my rights. And they don't want to look at any of my progress or my evidence against anything that they have on me. And every time I read one of these reports, it gets changed or they have something wrong, like everything's kind of like, it's like a big game of telephone. Like it turns into something that's completely untrue and made up. Like a lot of the stuff that I read in the report, I'm like, this isn't true. This isn't true. And why are they even listening to this lady? She wrote in this report for my case with my son that we were at Loma Linda Hospital and we were at Hemet Hospital. I'm like, she doesn't even know where we're at. And that's what's being believed. Like they're going off of what this lady's saying. And she's not writing the right experience. Like this isn't what I experienced.
Right.
Like this isn't what happened. Also, my boyfriend asked, when can we be discharged, or when can our son be discharged? Like, we want to go home, we want to know when he's going to be discharged. And they also wrote in the report that he tried to take the baby physically out of the hospital, and that the security guard was called, and that didn't happen. The lady came in with 2 security guards and handed us papers. Also, while he was trying to talk to her and ask her, like, on what grounds are you serving me this paper? Like, I didn't even talk to, like, I hardly talked to you. And, like, I have the right to remain silent. Like, why are you serving me this paper? And she's just walking past him, and he's, like, raising his arm, like, trying to get her attention. And that's another thing they wrote in the report. They wrote in the report that he was, like, physically trying to, like, stop her from, like, leaving or getting anywhere. And saying that we were a nuisance. And it's like, how are we supposed to react? Like, if we freak out, rightfully so, because our children, our everything is being taken away, we're a nuisance, or we're out of control, we're erratic. But if we don't care, if we stay quiet, we don't care. Like, it's like, we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I feel like my judge is a little bit biased, because I think that she signed the order form for my child to be removed from my care without first letting me disprove any of their concerns, or so they said they had. I wasn't able to tell her, look, they were concerned that I'm not going to be able to care for this child. Here I am at the hospital being asked to come in and feed him. I'm there for him physically, while being accused that I'm not there for him. Like, this makes no damn sense. Like, I just can't understand how, like, you guys could do that. Like, this doesn't seem fair. This doesn't seem right. I'm not allowed to have copies of documents. I have to be in 2 places at once. If I miss one or the other, I'm in the wrong, or I'm, suspicious of not caring or not being responsible or consistent. I'm like, I have rearranged my whole life for this case. Like, nothing is comfortable for me anymore. Nothing seems right. Everything seems really forced and obligated and uncomfortable, and I do everything I can to get all of the things I need to do from the, I'm like, the court is asking this of me. So why is it that there's little extra things from the department being thrown in, when really this is all I have to do that I see that's in my case? And they're just kind of like, well, we just recommend this. And I'm like, okay, but do you know that this takes away from me doing this other thing here that I'm supposed to do? Like, how am I supposed to balance that? And they're like, oh, you can request different days and times. You just adjust it to your schedule. And I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. I don't always get to choose what I want. I don't have control of any of this. A lot of these things are, you know, are on someone else's time and in someone else's hands. I'm just going along with it. But a lot of it is conflicting with one another. And every time I read one of these damn reports, there's always something new and over the top. And that freaks me out too. It's like a lot of what's happened years ago, or I mean, a year ago or months ago, is being currently brought up. And I'm like, this isn't accurate. Like, this isn't even what happened, anyways. So, why are we talking about this? Why can't we focus on the progress at hand and getting my child back to me? She's, you know, asking me all the time why she can't be with me. And I don't know how to tell her, you know, if she's gonna
Butter,
home or not.
butter, I don't know.
And then they told me, you know, one social worker told me that I wasn't allowed to tell my daughter about her brother, her new baby brother.
Wait.
And then I was like, well,
Wait, you can't talk about the baby brother?
I wasn't able to for the first couple weeks. And then I was kind of like confused and nervous because I had one worker telling me like, we're gonna confuse her, and I'm like,
But she saw you pregnant?
whole thing is confusing. No, she actually didn't, because I was doing they wouldn't let me do partially, like, part of the COVID thing happened, but before that, when I had gotten sick, they had me test and I was negative, but since I was sick, they weren't letting me see my child. So I had to do video chats with her, and then they said because I missed, or I didn't do 2 actual visits because of me being sick, they're gonna have to drop my visits and I'm gonna have to wait to reschedule them or something. And I'm like, well, but how is that my fault if I'm sick, but I'm still testing clean? Like, this should be, this shouldn't be, like, this should be rescheduled, not dropped and then reset for something that's out of my hands. Like, I feel like you guys are just doing everything you can to make it hard for me to, like, progress. Oh, sorry, my nose is runny, so I'm gonna be making weird sounds.
You're fine. I've been sitting here fighting nausea. That's why I keep closing my eyes, because I'm like, go away, go away, go away.
Oh, what about the lighting? Maybe it's, you know, have you ever tried being in like dim lighting?
Yeah, but then you can't watch. I'll show you.
Well, yeah, and then you can't see anything. So like, so yeah, I kind of was, I was talking to a lot of people about my problem and my case, and, you know, like another gentleman on your show said before, people get disinterested and people turn their backs on you, and before you know it, like,
Oh yeah.
you don't have any friends or family trying to help you. You're just like alone and stuck and just hopeless.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I wish I can get on with my life without regretting my life. You know, I always thought that we had problems to solve them and learn from them, not to be punished forever and to have your rights taken away because who cares about you? You did something that we don't think is right, or we're being told. It just, it freaks me out because I'm supposed to be the one that's protecting my child from anything and anyone. And I'm being like shut out by doing that. Like, my one job that I'm supposed to do, I can't do. And it's the most important job. So I've just been, I've kind of just been rolling along with my new case plan with my son. And you know, my boyfriend's new to all of this. So he's like,
Do you get to see your son whenever you want?
he still went to my boyfriend's house where we were gonna be staying together. And thank God I didn't move out of where I was living, because we had no idea that once this case opened up with my son, that we were gonna be told we can't stay at his family's house. So we, luckily we came to mine. But if I hadn't still lived here, we would have been homeless. Like, we would have straight just been
So
homeless.
where are you living right now?
Right now I actually live, we both live in Hemet. I live in a different house, and I live with a roommate, and he lives with his family, his mom and dad.
And you said, I'm
And
sorry, you
so the
live
baby's there.
Okay.
The baby's there with his grandparents. So he went home. He went exactly where he was supposed to. The only difference is we're not there with him. So we're like, you're not protecting this child, you're like taking away from this child. And my boyfriend's kind of like, what am I supposed to be doing? And at the time, the first hearing, his public defender just said, just give him a clean test, prove that you're not using anything, and then do all the visits. Just show up to all the visits, make sure you're on time, make sure you don't miss any. And he's like, okay, but if I do this, am I admitting guilt? Should I really be doing this? Shouldn't we be going back and talking about what actually happened, the day my child was taken? Because this doesn't seem fair, this doesn't seem right. And he's had a little bit more trouble adapting to all these visits and social workers, and it's hard to watch and be around. I feel like his rights were a little bit more violated than mine.
How often do you see the baby? Is it daily?
I only get to see him twice a week for 2 hours, but I'm allowed to go to doctor visits, which is weird because they told me at the hospital, we were waiting for an x-ray to be discharged and go home, and instead we got this CPS lady serving us papers. And then, our parental rights are being taken away, and we're asking for these test results, and we're asking what's going to happen, where is he going to go, what were his results, why can't we go home with him? And they just said vaguely your baby's fine. And I'm like, that doesn't answer my question. We were waiting for x-ray results, why didn't we get them? And then a week later they're like, oh, you still have the right to go to doctor's appointments. And I'm going well, then why wouldn't they tell us the x-ray results earlier on, when he was first taken? We were waiting on test results and we got sent home without him. We don't understand a lot of this. None of it seems fair or makes sense. And it's just a lot of stuff like that, it's mostly appointments that are just, there's so many that they start to be conflicting, and before you know it, I'm being pushed back too far because I'm trying to find the right balance of doing this class and this visit and this meeting, and trying to squeeze working and making money to pay for bills and have everything I need. It's getting overwhelming, and I'm not this hopeless, sad person with anxiety who doesn't trust anybody. That's not who I am. That's not who I was supposed to be. I just feel like my life has gotten considerably worse since being involved with this case.
Right.
It's really changed me as a person. It's changed my life. It's changed my personality.
Yeah.
And although my kid is always happy to see me, you know, and I still get to see my baby, I'm missing out on a lot of stuff, you know. She's just started losing teeth, and like, I'm supposed to be the tooth fairy, and I don't get to be, and it kills me because all I want is to be back with my children, and I can't be. And I've done everything I can to try to be there for them and do what these people ask, and I'm not getting anywhere. I just feel like it's all a ploy to kind of have me give up, or try to push me into a relapse.
Don't do that,
Or
please.
yeah, I know. I'm trying not to give up. I'm trying to hang in there. I just feel like, who are these people that they have the power to be unfair and violate rights? Like, you know, I can't have proof of stuff. Whatever my word is against theirs, like, theirs always wins, regardless of if it's true or not, or regardless of if I can even prove it or not. It's like, here, I'm showing you this evidence, like, this is what really happened, here's my witness, here's my evidence. Why doesn't this get taken into account? Like, why doesn't this matter? Why am I not allowed to, like, feed my child the way the hospital recommended if they didn't have any concerns or issues? Like, why
Right.
are they allowed to, and everything's able to be changed? And you know, I feel bad for my boyfriend's parents. You know, they're happy that the baby's home, but they didn't know that they were gonna end up. They knew they were gonna help, but never to this level, you know. And we're just like dying to be there, and I'm not allowed to breastfeed him, but I'm still like pumping and hoping that
Why can't you breastfeed?
I'll get to. And then I asked one of my social workers if I can breastfeed, since I've been giving clean tests. Like, there's no reason not to. I don't, you know. And they were like, we'll request it. And then a week goes by and I never hear anything. And I just continue asking, and, you know, I'm like, these are all supposed to be important things to, like, take care of this kid. Why am I not allowed to do this?
So they're saying you can't breastfeed because of your past?
Yes. Yes. And they're also
How long have you been clean?
like a year or longer. I've given them clean test after clean test, and they don't care. Like, it doesn't matter to them. I'm like, then why are you giving me these tests if it's not being put in these reports? Like, or, you know, I also feel like is the attorney in cahoots with the judge? Because every time I go into my
Attorney
hearings, they don't.
is involved with the social worker.
Yeah. So, like, it feels like it almost feels like they've already decided my fate, no matter what I go in there and I present them, no matter what my progress, no matter how long I've been doing it or how my kid's reacting to it. It just doesn't seem to matter. So, I mean, the only thing that I can keep myself thinking and going is, I mean, you have to win no matter what. Like, if it's their way or your way, you need to try both ways. Get an attorney, do everything your own way while also still doing everything they ask. So I've contacted different attorneys just to try to get just advice and talk to people with experience to see like what I should do. But I'm really glad that Mr. Davis has the radio show, because I learned so much that I didn't know the year before, and I feel like there's a lot of stuff that I could have done better, that you know, that I might have changed my case now. Like when they ask me to do things, there's times where if I feel like I'm not getting it done quick enough, I'll go online and do, like, for example, when they wanted me to do the parenting class and it kept getting pushed back, I just went online and I looked for a court-approved parenting class, and I did it that way, got a certificate, showed it to my social worker, and they were like, we're going to keep this on file, but it's not the place that we referred you to, so we want you to do it again. So I'm just like, okay, fine, I'll do it again, in hopes that I'll at least be able to give my public defender like two things. Like, okay, here's my certificate that I did in person, going to classes at a recovery place, and then here's a certificate that I got for completing a course online. Like, it's all there, but it doesn't always get presented or talked about. And sometimes they give me hope and they say that I'm doing well and just to keep going. And I'm going to be doing community visits, and once, you know, I do a certain number of those, then I'll get to do what's it called, the overnights. And then, you know, once I do that, I can have my kid returned to me. And then I'm thinking like, okay, but there was one day my social worker sent me visitation for both of my kids, and they were like dates all the way to the end of the year. So I was like, how is it that you're telling me one thing, like, oh, in a matter of weeks, like, you could be at home with your child and this can all be over possibly, but then like you're texting me a schedule that goes on for like till the end of the year. So I'm like, okay, you're telling me one thing but showing me another. Like, I get confused. You're giving me hope and then also taking it away. Did you have to do any of that?
I don't
when they
understand. Like, they have these, I had to do parenting classes, domestic violence classes, therapy.
That's what I have to do.
So
that's what I have to do. But they would have me do them, and then sometimes I'd have to stop what I'm doing and go to do like random tests, because I have this number I have to call. I'm sure you've heard this one, right?
I had to do it too, and I've never touched a drug in my life.
That's the thing, and it's like, this is what's happening to my boyfriend, and I'm like, why does he have to drug test? Like, I kind of understand why I have to, but why does he have to? And they're just like,
what's your color?
Guilty by association. I don't have a color. Mine's I have to listen for my the letter of my initial, my last name. Oh yeah, and then the thing is behind days. And then I'll tell my social worker, hey, it's saying like oh, it's saying September 3rd and it's like September 11th. So like I'm still calling in, but it's not accurate to the day. So just know that, or note it or something, you know, because I don't know if I'm missing my actual day or not.
Right.
Because it's behind. So they're just,
Do you tell the
there's
police
a
that?
lot of things that I feel like this is a crappy job. Like, this is unprofessional.
Hold on, your phone was breaking up really bad.
Oh.
No, it's not.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Yeah,
So this is unprofessional. This is your job. I think that's what you said.
yeah, I'm kind of like, I'm following all of these demands, but they're conflicting. So, how do I manage that?
Yeah,
And they're like, you just reschedule. And I'm like, okay. So I reschedule, and then I get scolded by like another caseworker that's like, didn't we refer you to do it this day? And I'm like, yeah, but I wasn't able to because I had this other thing to do. Well, why didn't you reschedule with them? And I'm like, I don't know, because I had that appointment first and
yeah,
asked to drop and do this. Like, it starts getting like
annoying.
overwhelming. I'm like, I can't do this. Like, it's gotten, I mean, I'm still trying to keep up with like what I can, but I'm trying to like show these people that like this is like impossible for anybody to do this way. Like the way you guys are having me do it, I'm being talked to from like so many different angles. It's not everyone's on the same page. So it gets to be unmanageable and confusing and overwhelming. And I just don't understand how like this is what we came up with. This is our plan for you to get your kid back. It's like I'm going somewhere, but I'm not sure if I'm going somewhere. I think I am, but
Don't
I'm not
sign
sure.
anything because I went to mediation and they told me I was going to get my kids back in 3 weeks. And then they told me, okay, now we go to court and you go in front of the judge. And the judge said, did you agree with everything in mediation? In my head, I'm like, well, yeah, I said they said I'm going to get my kids back.
Yeah.
So you weren't forced. They illegally signed away my parental rights.
Yeah, that's another thing that I'm just kind of like, I get confused about because I'm not used to like all these documents, and they kind of like try to brush over it real quick by giving me their short version, but I'm like, okay, thank you, but like I'm still, just give me a minute, let me try to read this and understand it. And I'm asking questions and they're not really like answering them. So I'm like, this doesn't make me feel comfortable signing this. And they're like, oh, well, it's okay. It's just for you to release information to us. And then I'm like, okay, then like, let me just get a copy of this. And like, they don't want to give me one. That bothers me so much. And
get a copy.
yeah, I've been trying to at least take pictures. It should be legal to if I do have a document that I should sign and agree with, shouldn't it be okay for me to ask that I sign it in the presence of my lawyer?
Yes.
Right? Like I should
The
be
lawyer
able to
is
say
allowed
like,
to be there for anything.
right. So like it just kind of shows that like they openly lie to you. Like they'll say like, no, we need you to do this now, or no, you can't have a copy of it. Like I try to tell them certain things that I think are like the law, and they'll just come back to me and say like, no, that's not accurate. And I'm like, what? And then I go home and I look things up and I'm like, how is this legal? Especially when they're especially when I try to like pinpoint exactly what I'm talking about, and they kind of just like dance around it. They bring up other things, or they completely ignore my cries. Like, I'll be concerned about one thing and they're like, well, you need to be worried about this. Like, don't worry about that, worry about this. And I'm like, I don't feel like I'm getting all the evidence I need on my half. So I'm getting to the point where
Have somebody
I
wants
don't want to cooperate with them.
yeah, somebody wants to know if you've talked to your attorney about the breastfeeding problem.
Not my attorney, but I asked my caseworkers, and they said they brought it up in court already the first time. They brought it up in court the first time, and they kind of just talked to me about it briefly, but they didn't address it like in the court case. Nobody brought it up. It wasn't talked about. It was only focused on like whatever was negative against us that happened. Like that I supposedly tested, my inconclusive test at the hospital turned into a positive. Oh, and they also blew it up real big on a picture and had it in black and white. So in the picture that they have, it appears positive, like that faint line. It's in low resolution and in black and white, so it doesn't look, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
You can't really see it on their picture. But they wrote, that they said it was positive, and I'm telling, my public defender, like, no, I actually took a picture of it myself. And I also took a picture of like the piece of paper that she had that says it's inconclusive and that it's faint. The lines are faint, but they're there. So here's my picture and here's theirs. And my attorney was like, okay, good, you have the proof. But it wasn't actually presented like in my court case. They kind of just denied the allegations, didn't show evidence, and just asked for my kid to be returned to me. So I feel like very little was addressed in this first hearing. It was mostly about how I have a case open and I haven't done anything for it, even though I had. And it's just like a loud report of just a lot of stuff that isn't true, mixed with a lot of past stuff that isn't true and misconstrued. And there's no mention of what I'm actually doing to get my kids back. It's like it just seems like a cruel joke or something. Like, I'm just like, why am I doing this?
You're doing it to get your kids back.
I just wish I felt that way. Like,
No.
I want to feel that way. I want to feel like that's really where this is headed. But my ex-fiance who, like, had been through the rehab, the sober living, he had done all his classes, and it seemed like, not that it's a competition or anything, but my caseworker had told me that he was a little bit progressed with his case plan. And I'm kind of like, why are you telling me this? Like, I have my own case plan. Are you just trying to, like, tell me, like, he's doing a better job than you, you need to step it up? Because we have different lives. So I'm doing it this way and he's doing it that way, But if he is getting everything done, why doesn't he have custody? Like, he had kind of gotten a lot of things done through his recovery place a little bit quicker than I had. So while I was rearranging like my work schedule and trying to keep up with all these visits and classes and stuff, they were saying that he was like, that he had all of it done and he was ahead. And so I did ask my daughter if she was seeing her father, and she said it had been a little while since she had seen him. So I was like, what the heck? Are they now lying to me about his case plan? Like, that's weird. It's just a lot of confusion. So I've just been trying to educate myself and keep up with all the visits and all the classes. Also, one day there had been a cancellation for my visit with my son, and they said it was because I had called and yelled at the social worker. And I was like, what? I didn't do that. So my boyfriend's mom had come over to my house, and she was like, did you know that your visit's been canceled? Like, you called and you yelled at the social worker or argued with her? And I told her, no, I didn't. Like, let me call her and find out what's going on. So I text her and tell her, like, is my visit canceled and why? And she calls me back and says, did you or did you not yell at me this morning? And I told her, no, I didn't yell at you. What's going on? And she was like, okay, I got a phone call and your name came up. And, you know, it was someone saying that the visit was at this time, and I was saying, no, it's at this time. And so I canceled it. And I told her, okay, well, that wasn't me. And can we still do the visit? And also my boyfriend's mom had called the caseworker and said, look, I looked in her phone. I went over to her house personally. Like, she didn't call you. It wasn't her. And so she resumed the visit, and we got to do it. But I was just like freaked out, because I was like, who called? And she was just kind of like, I know who it was. Don't worry about it. And it was like, to us, it was kind of a big deal, because it's like, I almost got my schedule or my visit canceled, and is like someone trying to sabotage me or something? And she was saying it was a phone glitch or something.
You're like, it's affecting my life, so I am worried about it.
Yeah, so like I try to ask questions, and you know, I'm trying to just figure out what's going on and not be in trouble for things that aren't my fault. But yeah, I don't know. She didn't really talk too much about it. She kind of just was like, don't worry about it. Like, that's my fault. We're gonna continue your visits. And we were kind of like, you know, if she hadn't investigated this, like, I was gonna get the blame for this. Like, you know, we want to know, like, who called and what happened. Are you okay?
You know when you get nauseous and your mouth gets a lot of drool?
Oh,